The title of Duke of Rothesay and the other Scottish titles which I've had the honour to carry for so long, I now pass to Catherine.
The moment King Charles lowered his pen inside a locked room at Buckingham Palace, something far bigger than a routine royal document was set into motion. No cameras captured it, no palace announcement warned the public, no cheering echoed through the corridors. Instead, a heavy silence filled the room because everyone standing there understood exactly what had just happened. One signature had quietly secured Catherine's future beside Prince William by closing the door on Queen Camilla's long-term role inside the monarchy. This wasn't simply paperwork. It was a decision capable of reshaping the House of Windsor for generations, and if the details hidden inside this confidential document ever reached the public, the palace knew the royal family would never look the same again. Before we uncover how this extraordinary decision unfolded, make sure to subscribe because every new development inside the royal family changes the story in ways no one expects. King Charles kept his hand resting beside the pen long after signing the final page. His private secretary refused to speak. The constitutional advisor remained perfectly still. No one dared interrupt the silence because the document lying across the desk carried consequences reaching far beyond Charles's reign. The confidential Crown Continuity instrument had not removed the king from the throne. William and Catherine were not becoming king and queen overnight. But hidden inside its carefully written clauses was something equally explosive. Charles had officially confirmed Catherine as the monarchy's future queen beside William, while removing Camilla from future succession planning, strategic royal councils, and the long-term governing structure that would shape the next reign. As Charles slowly reread Camilla's name, his expression changed. He pressed his thumb against the paper before quietly asking the question that seemed to reveal his own inner conflict. Is there no other way? The advisor didn't hesitate. Delay, he explained, would leave the monarchy trapped between two competing centers of influence. William needed certainty. Catherine needed uninterrupted preparation. Camilla, however, would inevitably lose the future position she had spent years believing loyalty had earned. Charles tightened his jaw because the choice before him wasn't simply constitutional. It demanded sacrificing the expectations of the woman who had stood beside him through decades of criticism in order to protect the future of his son, his daughter-in-law, and ultimately the crown itself. But the document held another secret that almost no one inside the palace expected. Attached behind the main decree was a sealed annex deliberately hidden from the public version. That confidential section dramatically expanded Catherine's future authority. She would oversee royal strategy, major charities, youth engagement, ceremonial reform, and help determine how the next monarchy communicated with Britain and the Commonwealth. Even more astonishing, another clause quietly dismantled the network of advisors and relatives connected to Camilla, preventing them from retaining influence once Charles's reign eventually ended. Suddenly, this was no longer simply about succession. It was about removing an entire structure of royal power before William even inherited the throne. Only minutes later, two sealed envelopes left Buckingham Palace through separate corridors. One traveled toward Adelaide Cottage, carrying responsibility unlike anything Catherine had ever imagined. The other headed toward Clarence House, carrying proof that the future Camilla believed she had secured had just disappeared through the signature of the man she trusted most. Neither woman yet understood the full weight of what Charles had done, but inside those envelopes lay the beginning of a royal conflict capable of changing every relationship inside the family. For Catherine, the envelope represented a future she had quietly prepared herself for over many years without ever openly seeking it. She had built public trust through discipline, stability, restraint, and unwavering dedication. She never viewed becoming queen as a prize. She saw it as a lifetime of sacrifice involving her marriage, her children, and every remaining piece of private life she still possessed. That was exactly why reading the sentence identifying her as the monarchy's future central female figure brought no celebration. Instead, it left her frozen. William watched carefully as Catherine read the same paragraph twice before gently placing the papers onto the table. She slowly walked away, staring through the window before whispering words that instantly revealed the emotional cost behind Charles's decision. Someone is about to be deeply hurt. William followed her, speaking with unusual caution. He reminded Catherine that this wasn't a reward. It was protection for the institution, protection for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and protection for a future reign that could never survive divided loyalties. But Catherine couldn't ignore what troubled her most. Protection, she quietly replied, could still feel cruel when another person's loss became the foundation upon which it was built. That response forced William to reveal something he had hidden for weeks. Charles had privately consulted him before signing the document. Through a recorded palace conversation preserved inside the official succession files, William admitted that while he never drafted the decree himself, he had warned his father that the next reign simply could not function beneath two competing female centers of authority. Catherine stared at him in disbelief. Suddenly, she realized the envelope arriving at Adelaide Cottage wasn't the beginning of the story at all. The decision had been quietly developing behind palace walls long before she ever touched those papers. William insisted he had argued only for constitutional clarity, never for Camilla's humiliation. Yet standing there beside Catherine, even he struggled to separate the difference. Across London, inside Clarence House, Camilla opened her own envelope completely alone. For decades, she had endured controversy, rejection, relentless public criticism, and a painfully slow path toward acceptance. She believed those difficult years had finally secured her permanent place beside Charles. But the document threatened something even deeper than influence. It threatened the meaning she had attached to every sacrifice she had made. The moment her eyes reached the removal clause, Camilla violently pushed her chair backward until it slammed against the wall. Her private secretary rushed inside immediately. Without saying a single word, she folded the document, ordered him to leave, and waited until the door closed. Only then did she reopen the papers. That's when she noticed something hidden beside the sealed annex. A handwritten notation. Necessary after Windsor. Everything changed. Her expression instantly hardened because she recognized those three words immediately. They referred to a private confrontation buried deep inside palace history, a confrontation the royal household had desperately tried to keep secret. At that exact moment, Camilla realized this extraordinary decree hadn't appeared overnight. Its true origins began during one unforgettable meeting at Windsor Castle, where a single sentence spoken behind closed doors transformed years of carefully managed royal tension into a constitutional crisis that King Charles could no longer ignore. The words necessary after Windsor refused to leave Camilla's mind because they pointed directly toward the one meeting the palace had hoped would never become part of royal history. Long before King Charles placed his signature on the crown continuity instrument, tensions had already been building inside Windsor Castle. What appeared publicly to be another carefully choreographed display of royal unity had secretly become the battlefield where competing visions for the monarchy collided. Behind the smiles, handshakes, and official photographs, a struggle over influence had been unfolding for months, and no one present fully realized that one sentence spoken inside that meeting would eventually cost Camilla her future place in the next reign. Charles had been watching the balance of power inside the palace slowly change. William was preparing for the responsibilities of kingship with increasing determination, while Catherine's influence continued expanding beyond ceremonial appearances. She had quietly become involved in discussions surrounding youth engagement, charitable strategy, public confidence, communications, and the long-term modernization of the monarchy. These were no longer symbolic responsibilities. Senior advisors increasingly relied upon her judgment because she consistently connected with younger generations while maintaining the dignity expected of a future queen. Every successful engagement strengthened her position, and every positive public reaction reinforced the belief that she represented the monarchy's strongest bridge into the future. Camilla viewed those developments very differently. She feared the palace was quietly constructing an entirely separate center of authority around William and Catherine. Trusted advisors who had long worked within her household appeared increasingly drawn toward the Wales family. Important conversations seemed to happen without her knowledge. Strategic planning meetings involved Catherine more frequently than before. Although no official announcement had been made, Camilla sensed the transition had already begun behind closed doors, and with every passing week, her own influence seemed to shrink, despite still standing beside the reigning king. Everything finally erupted during the Windsor Commonwealth reception planning meeting. The gathering had been scheduled simply to organize a major event involving representatives from Commonwealth nations. It should have been routine. Instead, it became the moment years of carefully restrained rivalry exploded into the open. Catherine had been expected to chair the Future Strategy Committee responsible for coordinating the event's long-term objectives. Before discussions could even properly begin, Camilla interrupted the proceedings. With Charles seated only a short distance away and William listening in complete silence, she delivered the sentence that instantly transformed the atmosphere inside the room. "There cannot be two queens directing this family while I am still here." The words landed like a thunderclap. Every advisor present immediately understood that the discussion had moved beyond event planning. This was no longer about one committee or one ceremony. It had become a direct challenge to Catherine's future position inside the monarchy. What happened next surprised everyone. Catherine refused to argue. She quietly closed her briefing folder, looked directly toward King Charles, and calmly asked whether her presence itself had now become an obstacle to the institution she had spent years serving. Charles hesitated. The silence lasted only moments, yet those few seconds revealed more than any prepared statement ever could. Catherine remained composed, but those inside the room later admitted the hurt on her face was impossible to ignore. She had accepted every responsibility placed before her without complaint, only to find her future role being questioned as though ambition, rather than duty, had motivated her service. William reacted immediately. He pushed his chair backwards and stood before anyone could intervene. Looking directly toward Camilla, he declared that Catherine's future authority was not something anyone could restrict, not even the Queen Consort. Charles attempted to restore calm by raising a single hand, but William refused to sit down. He insisted the issue had already moved beyond personal disagreements. If Catherine's future role could be challenged inside private meetings today, then tomorrow the same uncertainty would spread throughout the entire institution. Every advisor would begin choosing sides. Every member of staff would wonder which household truly held authority. The monarchy itself would slowly divide before the next reign had even begun. Catherine quietly repeated that she wanted no conflict. William answered that the conflict already existed. Those words changed everything. Camilla immediately asked the question haunting her since opening the envelope. Did Catherine ask for this? Charles answered without hesitation. No. In fact, he revealed that Catherine had privately urged him to preserve Camilla's dignity and avoid unnecessary humiliation wherever possible. She had requested firm constitutional boundaries, but never personal destruction. For the first time since entering the library, Camilla found herself without the enemies she had imagined. Slowly, she removed her wedding ring. She placed it beside the signed decree. Neither spoke. After several painful moments, she slipped it back onto her finger before quietly telling Charles that if he truly believed the monarchy demanded this sacrifice, then he owed William an explanation no document could ever provide. Charles knew she was right. The confrontation with Camilla had been devastating, but an even greater test still waited, because his son was about to ask whether this extraordinary decree had truly been written for the future of the crown, or whether it had become the final attempt of a father trying to repair decades of unfinished family wounds. And before that conversation could even begin, someone inside the palace had already copied part of the confidential document setting in motion the leak that would soon explode across Britain and place the monarchy's deepest private decision under the harshest public spotlight it had faced in years.